Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 12 of the $20orLESS podcast. We're recording live on May 3rd, 2015. I'm your host, JD, aka Gaddock Teeg, and with me today is my co-host, Cosmic Engine. How you doing today, Cosmic?
I'm alright, yeah. I've moved this week.
Yeah, I heard you have had a rough week, but you're all moved in now, in new home we all see?
Yes, it was a event
that
I don't wish to repeat ever again.
Yeah, I feel ya. We moved into this apartment in August. That was my first real move of my life, and it was annoying. It's getting stuff together, moving it, lugging it around, and you find out you have shit that you don't have any use for, but you still take it with you anyway.
No, you can't bring yourself to throw crap away.
Yeah, exactly. We're all hoarders at heart. I mean, it's just how bad it is. I think
it's just how well you hide it. How well you hide it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've moved a couple of times, and it's usually fine. Like it's because usually you have loads of people helping your family, friends. But this time I ended up doing the missus was in the middle of her college finals for the year. So I ended up moving near enough a 6-bedroom house.
Oh God!
By myself, which was eventful.
Yeah, that sounds pretty rough.
So I'm just I'm still tired. I think I started on the Friday. I started packing and everything, getting full steam ahead, and then I think I've eventually finished maybe Tuesday, Wednesday. I think Wednesday I fully finished moving everything. I still haven't finished unpacking everything, but holy crap, I don't want to do that again. Yeah, now I feel bad because I'm about to complain about my week, and in comparison to that, that's nothing. But this week, you may know if you're listening to the show live, we've had a couple of delays today. We're recording pretty late, especially for us. We're usually recording 10 a.m., and it is almost 10 p.m. right now. But this week, we were having a plumber over, and as anyone who has dealt with handymen before, they can be a little unpredictable. We had scheduled them to come over on Thursday at 9 a.m. It then turned to Friday at 9 a.m., and then Saturday at 9 a.m., and then it became Sunday at 9 a.m. So after 3 days in a row of them not showing up at 9 a.m. this morning, we were like, there's no way they're showing. It's Sunday. Of course, they decide to show up today. They show up. They fiddle around a little bit with the shower. We had a shower leak, and at one point the tub, the stopper in the tub came up, and the leaks kept going, so it kind of filled up the tub while we were at work. We came back and almost overflowed into the bathroom. So we were like, we need to get this fixed immediately. Yeah. And they come over today, and they don't have the right tools. They did not bring the right tools. They woke us up at 9 a.m. after telling us they were going to come 3 days in a row, not showing, and they don't bring the right tools. How do these people stay in business? I would as soon as the guy turned up with no tools, I'd be like, no, you're not doing this.
And then he went back to his shop, came back 4 hours later with the right tools. He said it would take an hour, and he told us he rode his bike all the way to the shop. So apparently he doesn't even have a truck or anything. He's riding around on a bike.
At least he's keeping fit.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day out today, so I guess maybe today he decided to take the bike instead of the car.
My best friend in England is an electrician, and I still don't know what he does. I asked him once to rewire a plug socket, and he said, I don't know how. I'm like, aren't you an electrician? He was like, yeah, but it's different. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, it's all the union hours they get.
That's what it is.
So, what have you been playing video game-wise this week?
Well, actually, I started a course this week on, I'm studying literature and narratives and new media, which is, they've forced me to play Lord of the Rings online.
Oh.
Because I've got to write an essay on remediation and how I've got to compare the trilogy of books to the films, the extended version of the films, and then compare it to the game. So I've been playing that, and which was interesting because I played Lotro before, but never really got into it because
I've never touched it.
I got in it on it quite late after it went to free to play, and because it was after I got into it the first time I tried it was after I was playing Star Wars: The Old Republic, so I had my main MMO, and graphically and mechanically it wasn't as crisp as The Old Republic.
Right.
So I kind of I can't be bothered with this.
Right.
But had to play it now, I've started actually getting into it a little bit. I mean, I still, as soon as the course is done, I'm never going to play it again because I hate MMOs. And I'm going through the motions with the questing and stuff, and it's
Right.
okay. It's Lord of the Rings MMO. It's nothing,
So, what's the setup for Lord of the Rings Online? Is it like during the books? Is it after?
Yeah.
Before?
Well, it's got
Like,
it
what's
encompass.
the...
It encompass like they still. I mean, they still provide a lot of content and they bring out expansions all the time. Like a new update's due soon, and it's going through the entire books. You start off, for example, I played a dwarf because who doesn't want to play a dwarf?
Yeah,
And
right.
it basically the very start of the game, the intro, the tutorial scene, basically takes place during The Hobbit as Gandalf is about to leave with the dwarfs to go and get Bilbo.
Okay.
And then it takes you meet Gandalf and you meet Thorin Oakenshield and stuff. And then after the intro is done, it skips ahead a little bit to the prologue, and that starts off just before the Fellowship of the Ring. So it's about the events that are building up to the first book, and then you kind of enter the first book. You go to Bree and stuff like that, and it's kind of it goes through the things. I like it that it's not directly involved in, like, you meet all the characters and stuff, and you do things that kind of cross paths with the main characters of the books, but you don't. It's not like if you ever played The Third Age, which came out years ago on the PlayStation 2 and stuff, where that had you basically shadowing the original Fellowship and doing exactly what they did, which I never understood why they did that. It's not like that. But I like it in the fact that it's a lot more in depth than the films. There's characters in there that are from the books. So if you've never read the books and you've just saw the films and then you go play Lord of the Rings Online, you will meet characters in there you have no idea existed. You'll see things in that game that you had no idea existed. But if you've read the books, you will find it a more fulfilling experience than the films, because there's a lot of characters that they missed out in the films because they had to squeeze it.
Right. Yeah. That sounds pretty cool, actually. Lord of the Rings Online was one of those games that people always talk about in terms of like very successful and like alternative MMOs to WoW. Like everyone holds up WoW as the gold standard for MMOs, but when people talk about games that are different from WoW that are still really good, people talk about Lord of the Rings Online all the time.
Yeah, I mean it's a solid MMO. It's not pretty. The graphics are very dated now.
Right.
But it's mechanically solid. There's a couple of things I don't like, but that's intrinsic to MMO design rather than specifically to the game. But I think it's a pretty damn good game. Like, I've enjoyed it thus far. I don't like that there's no, because I'm so used to Star Wars: The Republic as my last MMO. I'm so used to voice acting, and there barely isn't any. So it's all very much like World of Warcraft, but it's all text based, so I can just click through and do whatever. What I do like about it, though, is actually they've got something called the Epic Quest line, which is basically to do with the books, and it's to do with the story of Middle Earth. That is entirely optional. Entirely optional. You do not have to do the Epic Quest line to advance, which is something I found quite interesting, because usually MMOs kind of force you to do the main quest line.
Right. Yeah.
But you don't have to at all.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
This game was released in 2007, early 2007, April 2007.
It's 8 years old.
Jeez, man. I guess for an MMO, that's, kind of old hat. People are still playing some of the original MMOs, some mods even.
Turbine is still pulling out, expansions for it. They had the Rohan expansion, they've had the Isengard expansion, and they're still throwing out updates, and it's got a loyal fan base, and the free-to-play model, from what I've seen, is actually a pretty damn good free-to-play model.
Turbine seems to be doing well for themselves. They put out, very few games, but they're not talked about very often, but they're still around. They keep releasing games, so
yeah. But I mean, it's an interesting little MMO, and there's a lot of content in there now. There's a lot of content, so it's kind of, as someone who's never played it before, going in, I was like, oh my god, there's so much.
Right.
But it's really cool. I like it so far.
Yeah. I mean, if we're gonna talk about MMOs, I could talk a little bit about GTA 5, which I've been playing the past week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this week I was sitting at my computer, looking at my Steam list of the thousands of games I've bought on sale that I haven't even installed, never played. Just nothing was grabbing me. And damn if I didn't say GTA 5. That's on PC now. I'm gonna give it a shot because I feel like watching a AAA stupid movie, and that's pretty much what I've gotten so far. I've played. I just beat the first heist, which was a lot of fun. I think the heists are the high point from what I've heard in the game.
You got the heist to work, did you? Because a lot of people can't still.
Yeah, well, those are the heists online. I have not touched GTA Online just yet. I want to finish the main storyline and some of the side quests, get a hang of the game. I don't know. Like, I've heard very little about GTA Online except for the heists being added and not working. And I remember early on there was this exploit that people were using to crash the markets or something and make infinite money in the online mode. But other than that, I've heard very little about how GTA Online works. So when I see that, I will definitely let you know and report back. But the game so far, it's a big dumb, romp through a crazy story. It's your basic gangster setup. Whatever. It's GTA. I'm getting what I expected. I'm fine with it. I haven't played for a AAA game in so long. I can't tell you what the last full-fledged. It might be actually Titanfall was the last full-priced AAA game that I purchased. As it came out. And this, obviously, GTA just came out on PC.
Yeah, I mean, Grand Theft Auto is a franchise that I think that they build the game well. I just know I kind of lost interest after San Andreas. I played 4 and I didn't really like it, and I was just the whole makeup of those games, and it's the same goes with Watch Dogs. It's that kind of game that it kind of bores me a little bit.
I think because I haven't played one of these games in so long. And I know this has kind of been the AAA formula everyone wants to put out there. Big open world GTA with a million things to do. But I think because I haven't played a game like that in a long time, I think this is really hitting hard and doing a good job. So, yeah, I'll keep playing it and tell you how I feel about it after 40 hours or however long it takes to beat that main storyline. You been playing anything else this week?
I've been playing an embargoed game. I think I can say what it is, but I can't say anything about it. So I've been playing Warhammer 40,000 Regicide, which is the Warhammer 40,000 chess game that's coming out on early access Tuesday. So I've been playing that, and I'll have a video up on Tuesday, I think. But apart from that, I can't really say anything about it. So sorry.
All right. Well, when does that come out? That
Tuesday on early access. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, can you talk about it when it's on early access? I assume so, right? All right, so we'll hear about it next week.
Yeah.
All right, so let's hop into a little bit of news here. We've been away for a couple weeks, and in that few weeks, we have had a lot of interesting stuff happening in the gaming world. Let's start off with, I think, the biggest story. Valve decided to add paid mod support to Skyrim, and then followed it up by removing paid mod support to Skyrim.
Yes.
This is over the course of
2 weeks,
basically 1 week.
Was it 1 week?
But yeah, from the announcement to when they pulled it down, I think it was a total of 1 week. But it unfolded over 2 weeks, however we want to say it. But this was interesting. Obviously, Skyrim is a very old game at this point. I think up to 3 years old at this point.
Something like that.
The developers have basically finished with all their DLC, so it's basically down to mods, and there are a lot of mods out there for Skyrim. A lot of very good mods, very well-regarded mods.
Most of Bethesda games are very mod-friendly, like Fallout was very mod-friendly.
Yeah. So they've been pretty good on that front. But what this did was allowed those modders to put their mods up onto Steam, on the Steam Workshop, and sell them to players.
Because they were already allowed to do that, right?
They were allowed to. Well, what do you mean?
Well, you could put your mods up on Steam Workshop anyway.
Yes.
Could you not already charge money for it?
You could not charge money previous to this. You could only charge on the Steam Workshop for Steam games. So Counter-Strike or Dota or Team Fortress 2. So you could sell the Team Fortress 2 or whatever Valve game you want. But Skyrim is not a Valve game, so that was off the table. And so far, no other game either is allowed to sell mods on Steam Workshop. So this was interesting. It came out basically out of nowhere. All of a sudden one day Valve was like, hey, go do this. And I think that was one of the big downfalls to this whole initiative. It allowed basically the wild, wild west of mods. People were uploading other people's mods and charging for them. People were uploading packaged mods, which basically just took all other people's mods, put it into one mod and sold it.
How much was it to... Because essentially the developer got a cut, right?
Yes.
And
So
Valve got a
the
cut.
cut. Yes. So the cut was initially announced as 75% to Valve, and then 25% to the modder. It was then further discussed that the actual cuts were negotiated by Skyrim, by Bethesda. So Valve was taking 30% because they take 30% off of everything they sell on Steam. Bethesda was taking the other, let me do some quick math here, 45%.
Right.
And then the modder would get 25%.
Right.
So that was really a Bethesda negotiated thing. But there are so many different reasons why I think this failed. Like I said, it was announced out of nowhere. I don't think Valve was ready to, as they very frequently seem to be, they're not ready to release the features that they put out. A lot of times they just put out features without any even here it sounded like they weren't prepared for the questions they were going to be asked. They didn't know, what to do if someone uploads a mod that isn't theirs and tries to sell it. Like who polices that, and Valve is very against policing, it seems. They aren't willing to police Greenlight or early access or pretty much anything on their platform. They just let you go, let the market do what it will, and when you let the market do what it will, some shady stuff is going to happen here.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what Steam were trying to do, because I like that. I mean, modding's a very niche thing. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people use mods and create mods, but in overall of the gaming industry and the user base and the player base, it's still a niche market. I understand what they were trying to do, because they were trying to let modders earn money and ultimately let Valve earn more money and give the developers a cut. I think it's a nice idea. I don't think they thought it well through. Which is why
I don't think they thought it through at all.
Which is why they've removed it, because of the outrage. Because it opens the door to an array of abuse of the system, where there's fraud, there's all kinds of things. And I ultimately think for a niche market, was it worth doing? Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know of mods in the past where, especially very, very good mods that modding communities where they create mods that could basically be expansions for games. I know that they've had their private stores. You can go on their websites and buy mods.
Technically illegal, but they,
whatever. But I think at the end of the day, I understand what they were trying to do. But there was you need to put various safeguards in place, and ultimately, Valve are a company who kind of want to do everything automatic, and they don't want to have teams looking at things, because they've never wanted to do that. It's like curation and everything like that. They don't want to do. They're the kind of people who throw ideas into the wind, but don't actually want to do any of the work.
Right. They want everyone else to do the work, because it's expensive to do a lot of
something
that work.
like this, you can't do that. You have to have strict enforcement. You have to have, if a modder goes to upload something, they need to be, have some authentication process to go through to verify that they made it. And Valve can't be bothered with that, so it's obviously. I mean,
some of these things are the exact same things that happened with Greenlight when they released that. People were uploading games that weren't theirs to Greenlight.
Well, this is Valve though. Valve will always do this. Valve will always throw out ideas and throw out systems and see if something sticks. But as soon as it comes to the point where people are like, you can't do this, you need to manage this, you need to curate this. Valve are like, no, we'll just take it off.
Right. And I mean, I think it's important to note that I personally think that modders should be paid for their work if they can make it. If they make a good enough mod that people are willing to pay for it, I think that's the problem.
Who decides what's a good mod? Right. I mean, there's too much scope for abuse in the system. I mean, I could throw something together on Paint and take a nice and steal a screenshot from Google of something completely different, sell it, and then you get something completely crap.
Yeah. Or what happens when you make a great mod, a wonderful mod that the developers decide they don't like it, or they change something completely unrelated? Boom, no more mod. What do you do?
Honestly,
you have to give them a refund there?
At this point, it's still I think the best way to go, unless you're going to heavily manage it and heavily put an administration team together and do all the things that you need to do to safeguard it. I think ultimately it's best to keep modding free. Because ultimately, modders are going to mod anyway. and
Right.
a lot of modders do modding because they want to create a portfolio to get developer jobs.
Yeah, totally.
So it's probably better just to keep it like that for now until the point where you have someone who can take responsibility for it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think in theory this sounds great, but it just wasn't implemented well enough. It was implemented way too suddenly. That all, like, we've been talking about the same trappings that you get with all Steam announcements, basically. And one thing that I didn't see actually discussed anywhere, we discussed earlier that it's a little shitty that it would be only 25% cut of your work. That was negotiated by Bethesda, as we discussed. But then, what happens with the free mods in that situation? Is that a situation where Bethesda goes to free mods and say, well, you can't exist unless you charge money because we want to make money off of you?
Who knows?
So, yeah, I think it opens Pandora's box.
I mean, I don't
basically,
think
when you do
Bethesda
this.
would do that because that's idiotic because you're damaging your own game. Because at this point, you've got no new content, but modding keeps games alive.
Right.
And if you start banning mods like other games have, and that it's caused their games to die, it's a case of you ban mods, then you're screwed.
Yeah, it was the one thing I will commend it for is it kind of legitimized mods because modding, in and of itself is kind of in this gray area. I know some developers like Skyrim, they allow you to mod the game, but some other games, modding isn't directly supported, and this is kind of a pathway for mods to kind of gain legitimacy.
Yeah, I like mods. Mods are cool.
Yeah, mods are great. I think that we should be supporting mods wherever we can. It's just sad that this was made to support mods and just didn't work out.
Yeah.
So you said banning there for a second, so let's move on to the other news with Steam. This one kind of flew under the radar, especially in comparison to the whole mod situation. So Steam is now allowing game developers to ban players in their games.
This is stupid.
This is interesting.
This is stupid.
So go ahead. What do you?
This is stupid.
What are you thinking?
This puts so much at jeopardy. This is so stupid. So Valve basically they're giving developers the option to ban players who supposedly it's for cheating, right? But here's the issue I have. It's an automatic system. What it sounds like is an automated system. So developers pick up a cheat in their game, and so they send the profile to Valve, and Valve will just ban them, right? Oh my god, this is going to go so wrong. Like, what happens? I use Steam reviews, right, to write reviews on games, post my reviews, post my videos, and stuff like that. So it's a helpful tool, not only for me, because people read my reviews on Steam and then go to my YouTube channel and subscribe, and at the same time, I post on Steam so that people can learn about the product. What happens when, and this is who it's going to be, and I love indie developers, but there is going to be indie developers out there who are going to read certain Steam reviews, right? So say I don't like a particular indie game because it's a piece of crap, and then I post that Steam review, and then I go play the game again. Are they then going to ban me and get my entire Steam profile banned? Because it wouldn't be the first time something like this has happened.
No, absolutely not.
Indie developers have gone after YouTubers all the time. Take digital copyright, everything like that.
Yeah.
Try and get YouTube channels taken down. This is going to get bad. This is it's going to get censorship. This is what it's going to be. As soon as critics don't like a game, they're gonna get Steam profiles attacked. And if a games critic or a journalist loses their Steam profile, that's their entire library gone.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. In a perfect world, this would be fine. This would not have any issues. This would be good. This would allow developers to remove problem players from their game immediately, whether it be cheating, whether it be blatant harassment. It allows that to happen more quickly than with Steam, because as we've already discussed, Steam is not going to police themselves. Yeah. Which is what was the alternative before. But there needs to be some kind of check and balance with this system. Like, if you're going to, fine, if you're going to ban a player from your game, well, you should be allowed to ban them, but you have to give them a full refund unless you go to Steam and say, hey, we banned them for XYZ. Is this okay? And they can say, no, so no.
No, I don't mind anti-cheating policies, and if it's strictly, but the thing is, it's supposed to be for cheating players. It's supposed to be for people who hack games, and particularly like competitive games, like first-person shooters and stuff. But this is going to get abused, and it's going to cause censorship. That is my worry. It's going to cause censorship, and it's going to cause, games media people to get attacked. It's going to cause backlashes, not even just for games media. If a lot of people don't like a game because it's crap, or the developers have tried to pull a fast one, it's going to be
just ban everyone that has a negative review on your game.
Yeah, retribution. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah. Your game looks great when everyone is gone that posts negative reviews, and you're the only one on there posting good.
And
reviews.
I don't think that people can stand there and say, "Well, this won't. That's extreme. That won't happen," because it does happen. It does happen. Yeah. But, developers consistently on Steam, and it's not AAA's, because AAA's don't care. They're going to make money either way. It's indie developers. It's middleware developers. It comes, they consistently censor Steam forums. They consistently censor Steam reviews. They try to take down videos. They try to take down reviews. This happens all the time. All the time. So people can't say, well, that's not what's going to happen, because it is going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, look no further than a single person. Jim Sterling has a wonderful long list of different developers, indie developers on Steam that have tried to screw him in one way or another. Some indie developers are just out for the money and are as vindictive as they can be to try and make that money. They don't care.
The thing is that people like that, I don't even call them
lie, cheat, and steal.
They're not even developers for me. They don't develop games. Like there's a lot of, especially stuff like early access or greenlit stuff that gets sold on Steam that ends up being like, for example, a lot of them use Unity. And it's all Unity assets that you can buy. They don't change anything. They just whack it all together, so it kind of looks like it works, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then they'll throw it on Steam and sell. And
copy pasta.
They're just fraudsters. That's all they are. But it's these people who don't like getting called out on that, and then they try to ruin people's livelihoods, and that's what's going to happen every day of the week.
Yep. Yeah. So obviously dangerous. But we'll see if they remove this like they removed the paid mod support.
With Valve, I don't understand them sometimes. I know people, especially PC gamers, love Valve for whatever reason, even though they're not a particularly great company.
They made Half-Life, dude. Half-Life.
Oh, great.
Half-Life 3.
Awesome. But
and Team Fortress and Portal. They make good games. All right, they make good games.
They used to make good games. They don't make games anymore.
Portal 2 was good.
But they almost, at this point, I almost feel that Valve don't even want Steam anymore. Because they're kind of like, do you know what, we want it all automated and we don't really want to have to deal with it anymore.
Steam is the golden goose. It makes them just infinite money for doing literally nothing.
Well, that's it. And the problem is, they're almost comfortable with that now. And they don't accept responsibility for curation. They have allowed backlogs of libraries to be put on so that new games, particularly in indie games that are great, they get shoved down to the bottom of the list and get no exposure. They don't curate, they don't manage. They want to put everything automated. They don't want to. It's almost like it's like they created something. They created Frankenstein's monster, and then told it to bugger off and locked it out. And they're not really. They'll feed it every now and again through a hatch in the door, but they don't really want to do anything with it anymore. And
it's crazy because whereas AAA, I think we can all agree they're in a rough spot. There's some weird stuff. We're going to talk about the Silent Hills stuff in a moment, but where AAA obviously continues going for some reason, indie is in just this giant boom right now. There's so many good indie games coming out every day, but what's going to kill this awesome indie boom is this just cash grabness from all these other people trying to get in on it.
Here's a point, though.
Like the tech bubble.
We talked about a game, one of the first episodes we did, called Disorder, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, I like Disorder. You didn't like it that much.
Yeah, it was alright. It wasn't.
But interestingly enough, right, that was scheduled to come out on a certain date, right? And it didn't. And I can't remember what exactly happened. It was something like it either came out a day before the scheduled date on Steam, or it came out a day after. And what basically happened is that someone did something wrong in the Steam system, and it came out, but because it wasn't on the right date, it didn't get featured in the newly released section. They lost. I asked the developer about it, and they didn't want to tell me exactly. They said it was pretty crap what had happened, and that they'd asked Steam to sort it, but Steam never replied to them.
Right.
And
why would they?
They didn't want. They didn't share with me exact figures, but from experience on my part, I know they will have lost a ton of sales, especially for launch day for indies is critical. It will make or break your game. And that game did not get any exposure on Steam at all because someone made a mistake somewhere and they didn't ever fix it.
And I think that game was published by Screw Attack Games, so they have a large gaming community behind them, and they still get screwed. It's tough.
No, I mean, this is the problem. And with the amount of money that Valve make, surely you could justify hiring a team of people to manage Steam, to curate it, to sort out the back end stuff, to sort out, but they can't be bothered.
It costs money, man.
Why
would they spend money when they're getting infinite money for free?
I'm not sure that it's not exactly like the short of cash.
And that's the thing. I mean, they're obviously not short of cash, but what money? You want more money. You can never have too much money.
Yeah, well,
and it's the sad, and I try and link to game pages and stuff where I can to GOG or Green Man Gaming or other platforms out there because I don't want Steam to just have the infinite monopoly where they can't do anything wrong. I love GOG.
GOG is great. I love GOG because GOG.
Go to GOG right now.
Not only curate, but they make sure the games work, especially older games. They look at it, they quality assure it, and make sure it runs on up-to-date systems. Make sure it all comes in one. Whereas oldest, Steam games that have been released, like older games that come out in the 90s and stuff like that. They don't work. I think there was a game not that long ago that basically required you, if you wanted to have the soundtrack to the game while playing the game, you had to burn it on a CD and play the CD while you were playing the game.
Yeah, when System Shock 2 came out, which was not that long ago, they released it like it was a new game that was coming out. I downloaded it because System Shock 2, and it didn't work. Nothing I tried. I went through Steam forum after Steam forum. Nothing worked. Nothing. It's annoying.
I can't. Steam are just. They're not. Valve aren't a great company, right? They do good things occasionally, but overall they're a huge monopoly. And yes, they provide a service that's great. I love Steam as a service. I love having all my games there and everything like that. But at the end of the day, that they're not exactly customer orientated.
No.
No.
And every once in a while they do good things for the customer, but I feel like sometimes that's just like the mustache twirling, we're gonna get these guys.
They do the bare minimum. That's about it. Yeah. But anyway, let's talk about Konami.
All right. Well, in the continuing saga of Hideo Kojima on the $20 Podcast, Silent Hills is canceled.
I know, right?
Go ahead. What do you got for us?
It was. Konami cancelled Silent Hills, which was the next Silent Hill was supposed to feature Norman Reedus as the main character from Walking Dead, and it was supposed to be a collaboration between Hideo Kojima and Del Toro, Guillermo del Toro. I never pronounced his name correctly. The movie director. And basically, Del Toro stated that it wasn't happening anymore. And shortly after Del Toro said that in an interview, Konami confirmed that it had been cancelled, and then they are removing PT.
Which is a shame.
So basically, if you want to play PT, download it now because you won't be able to download it at all.
I think it's too late.
Is it too late now?
This recording, I believe they took it off on Friday.
Oh, really? So they've took PT down, and that's that really. Then basically Kojima. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but Kojima, after Metal Gear Solid 5 releases, that's him done, and he's going to be leaving.
Now, is that confirmed or is that rumored? I think that's been the hot rumor.
I read it on a few websites, but I don't know if it's been confirmed.
Right.
But it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case now, to be honest.
Yeah, no, not at all. Absolutely not. After all this that's gone down.
And it's interesting, though, because if you look at Konami in terms of the game's developer and publisher, they are releasing less and less video games. over the past few years. And I was reading an article done by a economist, analyst guy, whatever his official title was, and he was basically saying that because if those of you who don't know, Konami is a huge Japanese company, and they don't only do video games; they have businesses in fitness clubs, like huge business. Like they've got fitness clubs throughout Japan, and they do gambling as well. They own a lot of like slot machines and stuff like that. And they were comparing where Konami's annual income from the annual reports that they release, saying that basically in terms of video games, Konami is actually gaining less and less profit year on year from video games. So what he was suggesting was that Konami are probably going to start. They're slowly pulling out of video games, and they've recently they delisted from the New York Stock Exchange. They're still a public company in Japan. They're still on the Tokyo Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange, but I think they're pulling out of America basically. So I wonder what's going to happen to Konami, because there's been, I think in the past 2 years, there's been a lot of big developer names who have left Konami. Like there was the guy who did one of the famous dance games. I think it was Dance Central or something like that. He left like 2 years ago. And there's been quite a few people leaving Konami. So I wonder if internally they are maybe deciding that video games aren't as big as a very income for them anymore. And so they're starting to wind that down. You don't know. Japanese companies are kind of hard to tell because they do crazy shit all the time.
Right.
But
just look at Nintendo.
But
if you want to see a typical Japanese company, look at Nintendo.
But again, there's not, in terms of lineup for games, they haven't got really any.
Yeah, I'm looking right now at the Wikipedia page, Konami Games, and for the PlayStation 4, there are 3 games listed: Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, and Pro Evolution Soccer 2015. That's it. Those are the only games
for one of the biggest video game
for the PlayStation 4
developers and publishers in the world. That is not a good portfolio.
And for a Japanese company on the PlayStation 4, you would think.
Do you know what I mean? Though that's not a big upcoming portfolio, is it, for the
no, absolutely not.
So it wouldn't surprise me in the next maybe 18 months you would probably see Konami disappear entirely.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It's a real shame, especially with PT, because PT I think was one of the biggest games really in the survival horror genre, maybe since Amnesia.
Well, I
think that game was huge.
It was huge,
and it was a teaser. It was a teaser.
There was
trailer.
a lot of hype about the new Silent Hills game, which ultimately speaks volumes about possibly the financial situation at Konami, that they've basically pulled their biggest selling game.
Yeah, and I'd love to see what those guys. I hope those people don't just get sucked into making slot machines. And
they'll go.
I would love to see what those guys can do with a full game.
All the game developers will go. It's one of those cases. But whether not Konami, the interesting thing is, if Konami do pull out of video games entirely, though, will they sell the rights, or will they hold on to them? Because there's value in it.
There's no way. Oh, absolutely. There's no way they sell those.
But ultimately, will that mean there's going to be no more Silent Hill games?
Maybe not. I don't know. Honestly, that might be a good thing. Honestly, I think that might be for the better. I think it might be for the better if we don't get another Metal Gear Solid or Silent Hill. Let's start fresh with something new. Let's see what Kojima has up his sleeve. I'd love to see what he could do with a fresh slate.
Yeah, all the developers obviously at Konami will go on to do good things elsewhere.
Yeah.
But as a brand, Konami was a very good brand, especially for a Japanese company, because they're notorious for having crap reputations. So it's disappointing, but it's one of those things that it's happening more and more in video games. More and more old, the traditional old established publishers and developers are downsizing. You look at 2K. 2K shut down 3 offices in the past couple of years. It's crazy.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of the way of the world these days. It's amazing some of these companies have been along as long as they have been. Nintendo's been around since the 70s. The Konami's probably been around. I should have looked this up before I started the sentence. but they've probably been around for a while. Yeah, they've been around since the 70s.
Yeah.
So it's amazing some of these companies have been around and been as big as they have been for so long. Just think about all the tech companies that were so huge and now they're just gone.
That's it.
So it's kind of the way these things go now.
But yeah.
All right, and speaking about things disappearing, let's talk about the Ouya, which announced very, very suddenly that they are up for sale. They are looking to make back as much money as they can and get the hell out, it seems.
Is anyone surprised?
No, I don't. No, I don't think a single person read this story and was like, "Oh my God, the Ouya!" Yeah, no, I don't think that happened. But all right, this is what I'm gonna do here.
You don't have one, do you? Oh, the chat says THQ. THQ was such a good company.
I own an Ouya. All right, I'm gonna admit it. I look. This is an Ouya. If you haven't seen one, it doesn't surprise me. But this is what it looks like. It's just a box.
Why would you do that?
There's Ouya on the front. See all the dust? See the dust on top of it? I think that says pretty much all I have to say. It was a neat concept, I think. I wish it was better. I have so many free games from emulators that I've put on here. This was my emulation machine for a little while. But it's just easier now to put stuff on the Wii U. I just buy Link to the Past for $10. It's $10, whatever.
Why do you own an Ouya?
Because I thought one day that wouldn't it be cool if I had one machine that could play NES and Super NES.
I have one. It's called a PC.
But you have to plug a cable. Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys.
Yep.
My name is Gaddock Teeg, and I own an Ouya. But this is just another example of a Kickstarter that seemed so promising, it raised so much money, and just never reached its potential. Just sad.
No, it's not.
They seemed like good guys. They seemed like they had good intentions, and just didn't. The market.
It was a niche.
Isn't what it
was. There was no market. It was a niche market, and it was never sustainable.
Yeah, and I think. Still to this day, it's the highest grossing Kickstarter.
You dreamers, you.
Yeah, alright. So, I think that's it for the news this week, unless you got anything else you want to throw in here hot and heavy.
Let's talk about brothers.
Alright, let's talk about good things. This is fun. This week's game of the week is an old one. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. Developed by Starbreeze Studios, published by 505 Games. It was released September 3rd, 2013, so it's a pretty old game. You might be thinking, why the hell are you talking about this? This game is good enough to be talked about for the next 25 years. Let's just put that out there right now.
And plus, I didn't have time to play anything else, so...
Yeah, I'm in the same boat here. I was busy playing GTA.
Busy, goddammit.
Yeah, so Starbreeze Studios, they have an interesting track record of games. They did Payday 2, they did The Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay,
I love Chronicles of Riddick. Chronicles of Riddick was
Dark Athena. They also did The Darkness, which I think was pretty well received.
I like that.
They also did the Syndicate reboot, so I mean, I think they may lose a little bit of their steam right there.
You win some, you lose some.
Yeah, and this game is nothing like any of those games that I talked about. This game is really cool.
It's fantastic. Yeah. I think it was my game of the year, 2013.
Yeah, I think it may have been mine too. I don't think I was publishing anything back then, but it very well may have been. So if you'd like to check it out, website, you can look in the show notes. You can also purchase it on Steam, Gamersgate, or Green Man Gaming, so you can check out any link that you would like in the show notes. This game is cool. This is a interesting indie game. When indie games were really surging, this came out very much in that peak period that we were getting some great indie titles. You play as two brothers that have to basically go through this puzzly action kind of game. It's from an isometric perspective. You have to play it with a controller because the real crux of this game is each character is controlled by half of the controller. Yep. So you have one brother, he's this stick over here, and he acts with the trigger. Another brother over here, and you have to work together with both of them. So it's kind of a mind bender. You solve puzzles, there's some light action elements, you fight some enemies, and And that's the game. And boy, what a good game it is.
It is. I mean, it's one of those. I mean, pretty much most people have heard of it by now. And like the chat says, we're a little late on praising the game, but I was moving, so I was moving this week, so it's tough. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those games that I think there's not one person who played Brothers who didn't like it. It's narrative driven. The thing that about the game that's fantastic is not only the gameplay, but it's overall the game design. The game is designed so that it's a narrative experience, that the narrative is entwined into the game controls, which is something that you don't see much of. Games traditionally have been designed that you have the mechanics and the story, and they, for the most part, remain separate. Usually, like for example, Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy games are story, and then they build the mechanics to complement the story or to have something to do to progress the story. Or you have gameplay. You have games where it's all about the gameplay. It's all about the mechanics. You know, take first-person shooters. It's all about the mechanics, and then they tack on a story for something to do.
Yep.
Whereas, you know, it got to the point where, you know, which is something I like that since, you know, the past couple of years, and even more so now, people, particularly developers and creative people, are looking for ways to really enhance and explore new ways to tell stories in video games, especially because it's an interactive medium. I don't want to read anymore. Right? If I want to read, I'll read a book. So give me something to do and tell me the story through the game. And Brothers does that. That's what Brothers, you know, there is talking in the game, but it's not actual English, and you don't know what's saying. It's all, Brothers tells the story through, if there's any cutscene bits, it's all about facial expression and tone of voice. And it's also you know, body language and stuff like that, but it's mainly through
music, ambiance.
It's mainly through the controls. I don't know if I should spoil the ending or not.
Well, I think we can talk spoilers because this game is so old, but let's do that. Let's put that towards the end. Let's discuss everything else for now.
So ultimately, it's a very well built game. It's not very long. I think it's like 4 hours long.
Like 3 hours. Yeah, maybe 4 hours if you're really looking for everything, getting achievements and stuff.
And it's fantastic. The world they built is like, it's a fantasy world, and you get to see slain giants on a battlefield, but you're like normal size, so you've got to kind of move their fingers to get out the way and stuff like that. It's all.
You're put through a awesome world. The world they have designed is wonderful and fantastic, and you never know what you're going to see next. It's filled with giants, like you said, magic, and all sorts of interesting stuff. It looks great still to this day. It looks wonderful. They have a wonderful art style. It's kind of like, I don't even know how I would describe the art style. It's kind of like
it's cartoony, kind of.
Yeah, it's cartoony, but it holds up. It's not like old.
It's
really
artsy,
old,
as my grandmother would say.
Yeah, yes, it's very artsy. And like you said, the best indie games, I think, are the ones that can combine gameplay and mechanics and story into one, mold.
Well,
I think
that's what video games are about. Ultimately, it's an interactive medium. It's not supposed to be about you sitting back and watching a story being told to you, or it's about, the best video games are a combination of both, and the best video games, too often do you standing there and the controls of a game feel disjointed from what's actually going on, whereas they design the game to, you have one brother in your left hand and one brother in your right hand, and suddenly, you're moving those and it becomes part of the game. You are, each thumbstick and each of your hands represent a person as you go through the story. And, the story is basically about two brothers go off because their father, their mother died when they were young, and then the father becomes sick, so they have to go on a quest to find some water from a special tree. And they go off on this quest, and it's one of those games that it perfectly encapsulates what, for me, is the best game design, which is to have a really emotionally involving story, but not have it told to you. It's about experiencing it for yourself through the controls and through the gameplay. It's, things happen that it's, you never just, it's not stoppy start. It's not like I do this puzzle and then it's a cutscene and then I've got to do another puzzle and then it's more story cutscenes. It flows. It just goes all through gameplay. And that is great game design. And it's something that I wish people did more of, because it's we were talking about Lord of the Rings online. That is something that is a disjointed game. MMOs intrinsically are disjointed. You have the gameplay, and then you have tacked on story.
Yeah. And everyone is the one hero. Everyone is the only one that can save the world, and there's 1,000 or 100,000 of them.
It's one of those things that and I think particularly single player games, story is so important, and how you tell that story is so important. And people often get lazy by just tacking on a story with cutscenes or doing things, but I like games that tell me story through gameplay, or even in the sense, I know some people it's love it or hate it thing, but when you go on, like, for example, Space Marine, Warhammer 40k Space Marine, you could pick up audio logs that you could just continue playing the game, but in your ear you have someone telling you what happened before you got there. I like that, because it doesn't break the flow. I just keep going and I learn about what's going on. And there is some games that it's acceptable for me to read something or whatever, but I don't want to read through the entire text. Like, I don't want to read through the entire game. Game design and video games in general need to be interactive, and it's the point of a video game. If I want to just watch a story, I'll watch a film. If I want to read, I'll read a book. The point of a video game is to almost live that story.
Yeah, right? It's to immerse you in the story. It's where the word immersion comes from. It's to get you personally invested in that story. And I think that some people, I can understand where people can knock the controls. They are a little bit finicky to get used to. They're different. It's very unlike any other game I've ever played, and still to this day, unlike any game I've ever played. So if someone's going to knock the game, I see where they can knock that. And there are situations where I was like, come on, this is just annoying. Like, there's a flying machine segment where it just feels like a little bit too unresponsive to me, where I'm like, just get me through this. This isn't really helping at all. But I think that actually that little bit of rough edge, that learning curve, understanding how to get your thumbs to work together, I think it's rewarding, and I think that invests you even more into the story.
Yeah,
it gets you more invested in the game because you feel like you've learned. It's something that the hard, the Souls games get you invested into the game with, is they make you learn their systems, but doing that is rewarding and makes you feel good.
I mean, it's a case of the controls are sometimes a bit clunky and stuff, but at the end of the day, when you try something new, you're never going to get it perfect first time round.
Right. And the game very deliberately is designed with this in mind. So you're never going to have to do like a quick twitch, reflex thing with both brothers and get them exactly right. It gives you openings, it telegraphs pretty much everything. It's easy to get through, and you'll get through it if you just spend a couple seconds to think about, okay, this thumb is this brother, this thumb is this brother, and you'll be fine. So let's talk about spoilers here, because this game is so old, and I know if I want to talk about them, you want to talk about them. So if you do not want spoilers at all, just basically we'll end the show here. We'll talk about spoilers to wrap up, and that'll be the end. So let's just go through our contact info here. So if you'd like to reach the show, you can reach us at 20orLESS Podcast on Twitter. You can email 20orLESSpodcast@gmail.com. We have a Steam group, so go ahead and check that out in the show notes. We have a giveaway. Hades, once again, won this week's copy of Titan Souls, so he gets a brand spanking new copy of Titan Souls. Congratulations to him. If you would like to win a copy of Brothers, if you don't already own it for some reason, or if you just want to chat about this week's episode, we have a Steam group. We will be posting a Steam discussion thread where you can talk about this episode. Where can people reach you, Cosmic?
You can go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/thecosmicengine. And let's talk about spoilers.
All right. Well, you got anything else? You got anything coming out this week on YouTube? People should watch out for.
Warhammer 40k Regicide on Tuesday, and whether I have another video or not this week depends on lots of things.
All right. So thank you guys for watching. If you don't want spoilers, you haven't played this game for some reason, you should just stop right now and go play it. But let's get to the spoilers here. All right, so spoilers are on.
So
the ending.
Here's the thing, right? This is why the game is so great, because intrinsically, it's designed to like I said, have you experience the story through the controls and through what goes on through the gameplay. So you eventually come to the point in the game where after your journey, you've done a long journey, and you feel connected to these characters because you've got the older brother who looks after the younger brother, but the younger brother is very sensitive and looks after the older brother, and you have varying things happen where the brother, the younger brother, for example, can't swim and he's afraid of water, so he falls into the river, and then the older brother's got to save him, and all that kind of thing happens. So you build up an emotional rapport with these characters, and it also flashes back to the mother dying and stuff like that, and it's all very emotional. So eventually, the brother. The older brother gets stabbed and he's wounded, and you've just reached the tree. So you've just reached the tree, and the younger brother has to climb the top to the top of the tree to get the water or the tree sap or whatever it is that will heal him. And by the time he gets back down, you find the older brother dead, which sucks. And then
very, very sad.
Here's the interesting thing. Here's the interesting thing. This is something I don't think I've ever seen in a video game before. The game then forces you to bury that brother, which is an interesting experience, because not only are you then sad because the brother has died, but the game isn't, and the game's not just telling you, like, oh yeah, he then buried his brother, or just showing you a cutscene of him burying his brother. It makes you do it. It makes you drag the body to the grave. It makes you dig and fill in the grave. And you're doing this, right? And you've done that, and then you realise that and
you have to do it in game. You have to actually use the mechanics of the game, which is the best part of it.
You have to do all that, and it's making you do it. So you're doing it. You're experiencing it at a deeper level than you would be if you were just watching it. And then on top of that, once the brother's dead, half of your controller is useless. It's dead. You can't use. It's like losing a limb almost. Because you've lost one of the brothers, you lose a limb. So it impacts you more emotionally because of that game design, because of the way that the controls work, that suddenly half your controller is completely useless. And I almost feel like you feel the brother's death more, because not only is it an emotional story and you develop the characters, but you feel it more because it literally affects everything about the game. It has a direct consequence. You lose the controller. Half of the controller is gone, so your arm is useless. That arm is completely useless now. You've lost something real and something tangible, rather than just watching a cutscene take place. And that is more interesting. And for me, looking at the game critically, and for looking how video games can improve and become more interactive and more immersive experiences, that is fantastic game design. And then you have to go on without your brother. You still have to save your dad, so you have to travel back without the brother, without the older brother. So you have to face these fears. And it goes to this scene where he comes across, the only way to save his dad at this point is like there's a storm going on, and you have to swim, and he can't. The younger brother's still afraid of water. He still can't swim, so but he has to do it. And then suddenly, the older brother appears, like in ghost form, like as he's kind of with him in spirit, supposed to be. And then you have to use both of the controllers so he's kind of drawing on his dead brother's courage to cross the river, and it's like that mechanic right there, entwined with the story, is so much more powerful and potent than it would have been without.
Amazing.
It genuinely, that I think it was maybe the last hour of the game. I have never, ever been that drawn into, and I love RPGs. I love good stories. I have never, I don't think ever been that drawn into a game before, to the point that I had tears in my eyes because I was like, "Holy crap!"
Absolutely.
That was
absolutely 100%.
How can you? That is a video game at its core. That is what video games should be. That is that interactivity, making you do everything in that game, not just watch something. That is the best game design I have seen in years, and I still, honestly, I still haven't seen a better game in terms of overall design, including controls and mechanics and how the narrative blends in together and how everything complements each other. I still haven't seen it, still to this day. And I wish more games would do what Brothers did, because it was phenomenal. And I don't think, for people say, "Oh, it was quite short." Well, yeah, but that was worth it. I would honestly, for that experience, I would have paid $60 for that game.
It gave me an emotional experience that I don't think a $60 game has ever given. It's absolutely
and
incredible.
I loved it because I watched a podcast recently that they were talking about the Call of Duty Black Ops 2 maybe, or something like. Was it Black Ops 2 or was it Advanced Warfare? Where basically you had to stand there and at a funeral, right, and press E to salute or pay respects.
Right. Pay respects,
right?
Yes. Press X to pay respects.
And I'm like, why is that even there? Right? That's ridiculous. That's silly, right?
Right.
Compare that to Brothers, where you have to bury your own brother.
In-game mechanics. Yes.
It's night and day.
It's absolutely night and day.
So honestly,
and yeah, it actually reminds me of, I can't remember who it was, but I was listening to someone talk about BioShock 2, the opening of BioShock 2. And talking about player agency and how important that can be for a narrative and really making you immersed in the story. And comparing the ending of Brothers, where you are forced with in-game mechanics to bury your brother, to the beginning of BioShock 2, where you are in a forced walking sequence through this entire through Rapture, basically, in which at the end you are forced to put a gun to your head and the cutscene just shoots you. Instead of making the player press the button and not letting them go, and how different that would feel to a player to make the player do it themselves versus just doing it for them. So many games hold your hand and want to show you the narrative. This makes you, perform the narrative. You are in this story and doing this thing, and it's incredibly powerful. And the one thing I actually thought when I was playing the ending, where the brother shows up and you learn to swim through the water. The only thing I thought of that might have made that better for me is if at that point the controller had switched and you went from going everything was on the right for the younger brother to everything be on the left for the younger brother, because he has assumed the form of the older brother. He is the older brother now. And I think that would have made it just a little bit more powerful for me. But otherwise, I have nothing that I can criticize about it. It's just so powerful. And there's also a story behind it, and I thought I had heard this before, and I'm reading through the story right now, and the director of the game was born in the Lebanese Civil War. He has experienced things like this, and the story behind it is also incredibly powerful. Hearing how he came up with this idea of burying a brother, it's a really sad story, and I think even adds to it even more.
I mean, it's a combination of, in terms of storytelling, it's a combination of a lot of things. It's a combination of, they didn't want to have words, right? So they didn't speak. And it's all told almost, it's all told through body language and thing. But it's about you working out for yourself what's going on and how the characters are feeling and how you would feel. And it's almost putting a little bit of yourself into those characters. And it's just it's a phenomenal story, and I think honestly, if you've never played it, just go play it, because it's literally it's like 3-4 hours long, and you'll never regret it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had this emotional experience, this emotional reaction. I think I can count on my hands the number of times I've had this just heart pulled out of my chest emotion from a video game. It's you gotta play it.
But there you go. There's your spoilers.
Yeah. So again, we've already closed the show, so I'm not gonna make you listen to that again. Thanks chat for coming. Thank you guys for
Have a good
watching
week.
and listening at home. And everyone have a great week.